What are your thoughts on AI, Monica?
Oh, that's such a big topic.
It is a big topic right
Yeah,
now.
I just got back from East Denver. So East Denver is one of the biggest blockchain event in the entire world, and it lasts about a week or so. And then I was there entire week from for last week, and a lot of people say it's not East Denver, it's AI Denver actually this year.
Oh, wow.
So
All
yeah, we've
right.
seen a lot of interesting projects, and then great projects at the intersection of AI and blockchain, and yeah. So I mean, AI is a huge topic, and then yeah, I'm very fascinated by the daily. So I personally interact a lot of with like Chat GPT. I started to use that when it just got out, and then I cannot imagine a day for me working without Chat GPT and such, and then I do my presentation with a great website called Gamma. I happen to know the founder of this company. They are great. They're super productive. And then for you to if you need to work on even the web page or a presentation, and they just got a new feature. I guess is AI website 2 days ago.
Hmm.
I can't wait to try it out. So I mean, AI is, it's my daily life now, and
Oh.
then and so it's to a lot of people, I guess. Yeah, I
Do you
love.
like it?
I there are my positive thoughts about it, and there are definitely a negative thoughts about it. And then
Okay.
I was actually thinking about this on my way here today, and also from my trip back from Denver, because I consider myself a little bit more on the crypto side, the blockchain side. So
Hmm.
everything we talked about is decentralization, innovation, and have the push force for people to come into this space and then do creative things. And then on the other hand, I feel like for AI now it's super centralized, because of the GPU, because of the data. It's all in like OpenAI, even though a lot of people
Yeah.
would say it's closed AI, right? And then
It's true.
like Bird with Google, and then so to me, it sometimes it concerns me that
Yeah.
it's super centralized, and then even with some good great projects, like startup company, they sometimes they don't have either the capital to get those compute powers for them to get started, and then also because of the data is still in those big companies, big corporate, and then so that is something all oftentimes concern me, that it's just going to be another Web 2.0 .com kind of era for the
Okay.
AI to
Elaborate on that a little bit when you say that, because I believe I know what you mean when you say that, but for somebody who may not understand what you're connecting to being Web 2.0, can you elaborate a little
Yeah,
bit on that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So a lot of Web3 and blockchain is like the newer generation, like the next stage of Web 2.0. It's like we as the consumer, we actually own our data, right? So but for Web 2.0, like like Facebook, like Twitter, they own the data, and then they get to decide how they utilize, how they
Oh,
commercialize our data. So speaking from the blockchain perspective, that's what we try to change
yeah.
about this world. Like we want to decentralize it, and then we believe that it is actually our right, our right to use how to utilize our data.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the AI now, because of the GPU, it's so the compute power is limited. It's oftentimes in the big corporate, like OpenAI, like Microsoft, like Google. So a lot of the like startups and projects, they don't get the access to those compute power, which
Yeah.
is the fundamental thing about building on top of that, building things on top of that. So that to me is like back to the .com era, like all of those, the foundation, the core thing is all in those the big corporates, and then So that kind of, concerns me, worries me a little bit. However, there's something new, not something quite new, but something, we believe is the next narrative for coming out of this East Denver, but actually coming out from last year's the decentralized AI and decentralized compute platform, which combines the AI and blockchain in the most perfect way. So I'm super excited hearing that, and the AGI summit during this East Denver, and then we heard a lot of things, like. Also from Vitalik himself about, he spoke about that back in January, I believe, about the AI and then in the crypto, how they can, combine together and then produce something new, something, even, very disruptive. So I fully believe in that. And that's something, it's one of the narratives that got me really excited recently.
Yeah, no. Have you read Chris Dixon's book, Read, Write, Own yet?
Not yet.
But you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard about that. Yeah.
He's been pumping it. Within the bubble that we're in, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody is hyper engaged like yourself. And, I'd like to think us in the space, but he's really been marketing that book. And I read it. It's a great onboarder. Have you read NFTs Are a Scam by Bobby Hundreds?
Yeah, I must read something from it. Probably not the whole thing, but yeah.
I feel like if they would have taken those two books, you would have had a lot of culture mixed with a lot of like meta details. Because Chris does a great job giving kind of a history of how we got to blockchain and its benefits, but then Bobby Kim gives it that practicality. Like this is how it actually can work. You know what I mean? Because you need the infrastructure, but you also need to know, okay, well, what does that mean? How does that work in my life?
Yeah.
So those two books, I didn't know. But one thing Chris Dixon said that I liked in the book, he was trying to give an analogy, right, for blockchain. People say blockchain and crypto is a solution in search of a problem, right? And he says, well, blockchain is, if you'd imagine that what happened before it was like wood. You can build buildings out of wood. And that's great. You can build buildings. Blockchain is like building buildings out of steel. You can also build buildings with steel. They just happen to be stronger, better infrastructure. It's not that you're trying to redo everything to be new. It's just that you're able to do it better. And I thought that was interesting, the way that he articulated that.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I've seen a lot of the projects that are trying to be, either solve a problem in the real life or provide alternative solution, can better, solve a problem in real life. Both of them, I think both of them works. It really depends on how you can execute this and then how you are determined to make this happen. Because I was talking to my friend, I believe, at some event, I asked him, do you remember what we were talking about last year at East Denver? Do you still remember what the popular topics are? He said, not really. And I was like, yeah, so
That's funny.
It's not funny, right? So it's so fast-paced. Everything changed so quickly in this area. And a lot of times people just follow VCs investment. People follow what the community is following. People follow a lot of different things. But down to my heart, I really believe in what you believe you can utilize blockchain technology to change the world for a better place. And no matter it's for business or for consumers or any other things.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, the speed of information, because we have a crypto, we call it Fort Brock's. We talk about crypto, blockchain, and future web is what we call it, because we're tired of all these names, like Web 2.0, 3.0, and then Jack Dorsey's Web 5. So we just call it future web at this point.
I don't think anybody mentioned Web 5 anymore. It's
they're putting a lot of money, TBD, off of
really?
Block. Yeah, they're putting a lot of money behind it. They have some cool protocols.
Okay.
I guess it just comes down to adoption.
Yeah.
But the speed in which information's coming out is so fast that if we record something and have a perspective, if we don't get it out fast enough, it might be old by the time it gets published because new data came out or somebody released something. You know what I mean? Or You're right. The speed of it, the velocity of everything is so fast, and even the cadence is happening more too, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting you talk about that.
Yeah.
So how do you see AI converging with business? Because people talk about, their big fear is that it's going to make certain human value redundant. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree. I think it's bound to happen.
Okay.
So yeah, for example, I a lot of the things that I have to do it manually 2 years ago,
At manually? What's
like I have to
manually?
do it myself,
Oh, okay,
like
got you.
writing some, script, and then even just an PR article, or just marketing stuff, something, or even just do
Yeah.
event planning, something like that. I have to do it myself. Like 2 years ago, and now it's just boom, boom, boom. You just use Chat GPT, and then we don't need a big team to. For any startups to do some, that kind of stuff, and then
Yeah.
even from the developer side, I'm not an engineer myself, but I have a lot of engineering friends, and then a lot of times they just ask ChatGPT to generate a test for their code, and then do it so well. I mean,
Yeah.
who needs those? I think it's going to be very tough for some entry level engineer, some new
Yeah.
college graduate, for them to get into the business right now, as opposed to ChatGPT is not there, 2 years ago. So a lot of things can be absolutely, done by ChatGPT in a more effective and productive way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a great, I want to say it was on wired.com, an article talking about currently, right now, AI needs humans because of the grunt work of data entry.
Yeah.
So there's this real human need now,
Yeah.
but how long will that last?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then a concern I've had is, okay, we enter in all the data. Let's say everybody gives consent that everything that's been put on the internet is allowed to be ingested for task purposes, for knowledge archive purposes, parsing of it, the segmentation of the data, everything that you could think of. But what happens 20 years after that, right? Is anybody going to be coming up with anything new to ingest, or is it all just going to be generative data? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if it's utilizing the source of data that we've as humans created up to this point,
Yeah.
but all that data doesn't keep getting new iterations from human perspective,
Yeah, absolutely.
you
And
know what
then,
I mean?
yeah, and even I was listening to this tech talk the other day,
Okay.
and this researcher, so she found that she wants ChatGPT to generate a picture of a certain woman's name, and
Okay.
because of a lot of the pictures out there, the data out there is for this let's say Amanda, is a lot. So some model named Amanda
Right.
uploading a lot of the pictures of herself wearing bikini. So the generated picture, the AI picture, is very like bikini, a woman wearing bikini.
So it's sexualized.
It's sexualized and stereotyped, and then
Yeah.
a lot of the copyright infringement and a lot of non-transparency in
Yeah.
terms of how the AI models are utilizing those data now without a proper guidance and proper guidance of the human. So I totally agree on that.
It's funny you brought that up because I'm sure people talked about Sora,
Yeah.
right? And I've talked about this with other people, but OpenAI in October, I think it was October of 2023, they were supposed to announce who they had given a governance and safety grant to because they started an initiative maybe 3 months prior or somewhere around July or June, something like that. They put out a blog post saying that they were going to do a grant to however many people, it might have been 3 or 5, of a couple, like maybe $100,000 or something. But they were going to work with the OpenAI team to work on governance and safety protocols. But since that post, I haven't seen any other posts saying this is, you know what I mean? The same status or the same transparency that I would hope for hadn't happened. And so I'm just kind of like, what's going on? Obviously, they had that big drama at the end of the year
Yeah.
with Sam Altman, but still, they put out a grant for OpenAI or for governance and safety, but there was no real follow through.
I was going to mention that the big drama, so
Yeah.
everything about OpenAI seems very, because it's such a company of just huge power, and then it seems unorthodox that they have so many untransparent information or any out there, like I till now I was at Silicon Valley that weekend of the whole drama happens, and then up till now I do not know what happens with Sam Altman. So what was going on? Why he wanted? Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Why he chose to leave the company back at the time and then come back? So it's all very.
Well, they clipped him. He
Oh.
didn't choose to leave. They
Oh yeah.
booted him
So
out.
what's the story behind that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So something like that. And now the Elon Musk, like
Oh.
OpenAI and everything, they have the email open to the public, like, oh, you agree that it has to be, it doesn't have to be, open source, but it's just a lot of drama going on there, and then it's.
Gary Tan on Y Combinator's, you know how they do their weekly email, Y Combinator does or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
He just talked about in their recent email about joining the board of OpenAI.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. It's very interesting. Well, because Sam Altman was at Y Combinator. And then I don't know exactly how, Paul Graham wrote a post about it once. It's very gossipy almost. You know what I mean? It's
That's
business,
where they
but
should
it's
do
very
DAO, like a decentralized autonomous organization that have different people have, like voting power on
Yeah.
some, human future related kind of topics, and then everybody, at least from, people from diverse backgrounds should have a say on that, right? Instead of just a couple of elite in Silicon Valley.
It's crazy because there was an article or in one of the newsletters, I don't know if it was Term Sheet, but I think it was like a Fortune newsletter. But the CEO of Microsoft was talking about OpenAI and dispelling any concerns about it continuing to a certain degree because he's like, we have it all. Whether OpenAI continues, we're going to be able to keep going at this point. So it's not even just OpenAI that has access to resources and influence. Microsoft, who has a substantial amount of capital and resources,
Yeah.
now has access to everything OpenAI has because
Yeah.
of their position together.
Yeah.
And then you have,
It's
Anthropic,
monopoly. It's
you have
just.
Cohere. I mean,
Yeah.
the incumbent players of tech, which cannibalized the previous market, right, in the early 2000s, they're the ones positioned to keep it going, but they're also the same mindset that they know if they don't cannibalize a portion of their own business model, somebody will cannibalize them.
Yeah.
So they're more equipped to take on this next iteration than generations before them, right? So your GEs of the world, your General Electrics or your Procter Gambles, where they could have been the ones to take the ball and run with it, or your Hewlett Packards, the way Amazon took the ball from them, they're not in that position. Amazon knows that they're going to have to cannibalize their market somehow, which is I appreciate their business savvy, but it's a little scary.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they're business person. They're business people.
It's very business, right?
They're business.
Yeah. Okay. So in regards to blockchain, since you have a great affinity, great knowledge of blockchain, what are your thoughts on blockchain moving forward?
I think there are a couple interesting narratives that raised from this year, which is first one is not from this year, but it's actually from a couple years back. But back at the time, the infrastructure is not ready yet. It's not that mature yet.
That's
But
right.
now that infrastructure is sort of ready, so we see a lot of good deeping, decentralized physical infrastructure coming out. I was talking to IO.net, their COO, and we're probably going to meet up again in LA this week. And then I talked to Helion Mobile, a lot of really, really interesting physical infrastructure projects, or even physical device that link to blockchain technology. I think they are on the right track, and then we can see a lot of new projects coming, and then that is something where because I am always on. I'm on the gaming area as well, so a lot of things I do is to have the mass adoption to come early,
Yeah.
so that's why we work with some mainstream IPs, and then like celebrities and then such, and then we try to utilize those big IPs, and then to bring more people to this area. And that's the same thing that Deeping is doing, like for example, the Helium mobile. I don't know if you use that app, and then you can have a
No, but I'm
mobile.
familiar with it.
Yeah, the data plan is like $20 per month. And if you're in their pilot area, which is Miami, it's just $5.
Oh,
Imagine
okay.
how many people they can onboard
Yep.
to this area, right? And then so deeping is really interesting area, and restaking, of course, because of eigenlayer. So I also have the opportunity to briefly talk to Sriram, the CEO of Eigenlayer,
Okay.
during. It's very fascinating what they're building on, but it also comes a lot of the potential risks because of the whole restaking mechanism. So I believe a lot of people from the Ethereum Foundation is working on a solution for that. But we see more and more projects, more and more DeFi are building on top of the eigenlayer, and I believe they locked about 10 billion TVL probably a week ago. So that's huge.
It's interesting what you talk about. So, do you get a sense from people they understand how to usher in the adoption of the new technology? Because we can build really great things, but how do we get people to use it?
Now it's very interesting. I really appreciate that you brought this up, because not many people are,
They're
are
not
working
talking
on that.
about it, right? I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, we built the coolest thing," and I'm like, "Awesome! How do we use it? How are you gonna get people to use it?" I mean, what are your
Exactly.
thoughts about these
Exactly.
things?
Exactly. So I am currently working with a Web3 publisher or studio that has been in Web2 publishing side for many years, that we've worked with a lot of Hollywood IPs, like Terminators, like, Kung Fu Panda and such. And then
It's not Stars Collective.
no,
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 no, I
no.
didn't
It's
think.
the company is called Metal Entertainment,
Okay.
and then we got the investment from a couple of the Web3 investors back in 2 years back, and then we sort of pivot into this Web3 area, and then we work with mainstream IP sports league like NBA. We just got their global license, and also the license from MBPA, the Player Association. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna build a open world type of social basketball game
Okay.
centered around a card game, and utilizing the NBA and their players' IPs. So what we want to do is actually have all the NBA fans to be able to interact with the IPs, their players that they like in this game, and we're gonna do an NFTs thing within this game, but it's not like the Top Shop. We all know that Top Shop did really, really well a couple years ago, and I think they made about $2 billion, in 2 years. And then, however, those NFT doesn't have any utility. It's more like digital
Yeah.
collectibles, right? What we want to do is to make it a good game. The gameplay has to be very good. No matter if you are Web3 game players or Web2 game players, you gotta like this game. You gotta
Yeah.
want to spend a lot of time in this game, and then you have the option to do a digital assets, digital collectible, which is the NFT, and which also has a lot of the utilities, in-game utilities. And that's how we can get NBA on board. That's how we believe we can get like millions of the sports, the NBA fans throughout the world on board to get too familiar with the NFT, the concept itself. So that's what we've been trying to do for the last 2 years is to get everything, to get the GDD done, to get our infrastructure partners, our blockchain partners, and then work with NBA on all of that. And then I know Dapper Labs did a really good job on that. They recently partnered with, they got license from Disney. They also got license from MLB, NFL.
Did
I
they
believe.
get the license from Disney? I heard
Yeah.
there was a little bit of
They already did.
controversy around that.
Oh, okay.
I have to pull it up.
But you can already download the app and then join the wait list from the.
So you talk
site.
about the NBA.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if I would imagine it's probably come across, but they're in the middle of a lot of renegotiating of licensing of TV rights. And there's a huge streaming war going on right now about who's going to get what TV rights for different sports. Apple's become huge in this space. I mean, they acquired soccer, football, right? In that way, MLS, so they have that side of the TV rights, but they're trying to do it globally, right? And then F1 becoming big because of Drive to Survive. But NBA right now, they're talking about how they're redoing the TV rights. But who's going to buy them? I mean, you have Amazon that wants them. You have Disney that wants them because of their packaging with ESPN and how they're wanting to separate the two. Because they're already bundling Hulu with Disney now that that acquisition is happening. But then you have Apple as a big player in the TV rights space. And so when you talk about creating something across the NBA platform, are you familiar with the way TV rights are, the monetization is distributed to all teams?
No, not really.
So in a nutshell, it's almost a big communal pot. And if one team makes more than the other, then there's a way to kind of even it out so that if there's certain teams that are able to market themselves better, that make way more money than another team, there's a way that they adjust their TV rights percentage so that some of the smaller teams still make good money, but they may not make as much money as others. So there's this huge way that it's all structured. It's very interesting. But it's when you talk about that, it seems like it would follow suit if it's the NBA and you're able to utilize the IP from all the teams. How do the teams participate in that revenue? Because if they participate in that revenue, it's in their best interest to work with you.
First of all, we were thinking about adding streaming to our game because it's kind of like metaverse type of game that you get to have. You have a lobby, you have your own suite, and then you can get to hang out at the club with your fellow fans. But just after a while, we dropped the idea. It's just too complicated for us
That's
to.
a lift.
Yeah,
That's a lift.
Yeah, exactly.
Those pixels don't just show up. Yeah.
Right. Just too complicated, and we decided to just focus on what we are good at, which is the game itself. Yeah. So while I don't know how NBA is dealing with all of that, but in our game, it's just going to be more focused on the interactive experience, the immersive experience that the user, the gamer, is going to have. Like you can play the card game, and then you can do some, 3-point shoot. There's some mini games around that. So it's all focused on how can you, enjoy the fan culture within this metaverse, no matter it's in your own little space where you can hang your, the accessory, which is going to be an NFT right on the wall, or you can invite people to your suite, and then you can interact, and then, or you can, just play the game, something like that. So we're focusing on that instead of.
It sounds a little GTA-like almost when you start talking about it that way.
It's kind of like open world,
Yeah.
kind of like social type of game because SocialFi, because of the friend.tech, a lot of the SocialFi projects are doing really well recently.
So will you be able to ask questions to the players? So would you have data, let's say it was AI aggregated data, to be able to talk to LeBron James and have a conversation with them in the game?
I can't say too much about that
Fair
at this
enough.
point,
No,
but
I got you.
I think that's a very interesting point, like character.ai, right? That you input a lot of the data of the celebrity or the players that fans going to interact with, and then they can have this very true feeling when they are, try to, communicate. I think that's a really good idea. And that's actually something that we want to do also 2 years ago. Let's start bring the the celebrity to the virtual concert, and then we back at the time we want to do this kind of virtual concert with the K-pop, because K-pop is where the fan
Oh, yeah.
culture is rooted, and that's when people is gonna do so much, to in order to have this kind of experience with their the celebrities.
So when you're
pop
talking
stars.
about these things, I'm a big fan of the digital version because I love tech, as we've talked on like when we first met. But since we also have an events company, we're very familiar with the physical reflection of these things because we've done events that were NBA driven physically. And then K-pop was a big thing for us because even more recently, when they did a launch at Capitol Records, the other spot that we have events at is across street from Capitol Records. And you should have seen the line of fans out there. It was incredible. They camped out there for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 nights. It was insane how much of a draw they were. But what's funny about it, even though they're on the sidewalk over there by the Hollywood Walk of Fame, they're all on their phones. And they're looking up content about the bands, right? And I was just like, it was so interesting because they're in a physical environment where they can hopefully catch a glimpse of them or talk to them or whatever, but then they're also interacting with their digital content while waiting for the physical. You know what I mean? It's just so interesting to see them both happening at the same time.
And it's not just about it for the K-pop, and a lot of the the TikTokers, a lot of the influencers and KOLs,
Yeah.
they can have the same effect when they're talking about their own community, right? So just like friend.tech, and then actually a friend of mine and I, we are working on a KOL launchpad, and we
That's
want
key
to do.
opinion leaders for anybody
Yeah.
who's listening.
Yeah.
I just thought about that. Sometimes we say acronyms.
Thank you.
And I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah,
remind.
thanks for yeah.
And
Yeah.
GTA was Grand Theft Auto, for those who might have not known. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so I just want to say is that the fan culture of that, how you have a deeper connection with the celebrities or the KOLs, and then that extends to the real life, to real world, as well as in the virtual world. I think that's so much we can do in that space, and especially for the KOLs, we all know KOL is a big part of the crypto world. Like you can see
Yeah.
tons of the KOLs and on Twitter, and then oftentimes we can get a lot of really good, insight from them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where the friend.tech is coming from. Yeah, so
I got you. So how do you see the future of crypto going? Given that we're in a bear market, although it's been green lately. It's always fun when you open up and you're like, oh, it's all up. In the past few days, in this current time, what is it? Is it March 7th? Is it March 7th, Brandon? Okay, so it's March 7th, 2024 right now. My portfolio I'm smiling. It's not what it was yet, but it's going up. But what are your thoughts regarding crypto as we move forward?
we had a lot of discussion in the market, because back in I believe it's, I don't know, is it Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, and then the Bitcoin price is like up to
67?
67 or even 68 at
Yeah.
one point, and then a lot of speculation, a lot of that going on during that conferences, and then a lot of people was like, because this bull run came a little bit faster than expected, so it's going to end also a little bit faster. So probably we're looking at maybe end of this year, or even just Q1 next year, we can see the end of this bull run. And I also talked to the lead engineer at Babylon. Babylon is also
Okay.
a leading protocol at for the Bitcoin, so DeFi. And then he was talking to me about his model, the projection model. By the way, a lot of the I see a lot of the AI forecasting, market forecasting projects coming out too.
Okay.
About the price projection. So he was saying that the price is gonna hit about 132,000
By when?
by around the halving time, which is around the mid-April. and then you just go
that'd
down
be
a little
interesting.
bit. Yeah, that'll be interesting, right? Yeah. That's just one model that I heard, but there are a lot of speculation around.
Well, we're gonna
that.
find
People
out that one real quick.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? I always think
Have-
of people who would wear, if you go to New York, you'll see people with signs that the world's ending on this date type thing. It almost has that same feeling, like crypto's going to have this surge on this date.
Yeah.
And there's so much speculation in the space. The one thing we always talk about in regards to the stuff we do is adoption. That's the signal we like to focus on because we're in it we look at it in terms of decades instead of months.
Yeah.
So we think about adoption, and a lot of people are putting resources, time, and money behind it. And as long as those things are happening, I'm of the opinion that we're in a spot where it's going to work itself out.
Yeah.
A lot of peaks and valleys,
Yeah.
but people are still putting so much time and money into it.
Because we believe in it. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. Anybody that work on the adoption side of
Right.
that. Not many people, like you said, people are chasing the money, chasing
Yeah.
the trend, and then there's not a lot of people are focusing on how to bring the real use case, and then have people, like get to know this crypto space like day by day, or even create something useful for normal people, something like that. That's where we are at, and I really appreciate. Yeah.
That's why I like XNO. It seems to be unsexy in a lot of ways because it doesn't really do much. But what it does do is it's fast to settle the transaction. If I send you XNO, which is nano, you'll have it in 3 seconds. It's settled. And how much did it cost us? 0. And I love that because then I see the value in it. Like if I was wanting to buy a house with it, I don't have to wait for the bank to open. We can settle right away. You know what I mean? It's not a promise to pay. It's settled. Like you have it, I have it. We can move on with our day.
Yeah, finance and payment is still so far the most successful use case in the crypto world.
Yeah, it's hard to
So it
figure
is.
that out. And I'm nervous because there's so many incumbents like JP Morgan with their Onyx blockchain and their JP coin and everything with central,
Yeah. It's very
digital
exciting,
currency.
isn't it?
It's exciting, but
Overwhelming a little bit at the same time.
it can
but-
be, right?
Yeah.
It really can be because even with yourself in it,
I feel
so
overwhelmed
fast.
all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. Constantly feel I'm left behind. There's so much going on out there, and then I'm like sitting in California, and then I want to be at the forefront, which is where California, like Silicon Valley, is also it's already the core, the epicenter of the whole, the revolution. But still, I feel I'm left behind all the time. I want to.
I'm of the opinion that it's. You remember that board game Risk? Do you know that game? It's an old game. It's an old mentality. It's all about war, which I'm not a big fan of. But you have all these things pitted against each other, and they're all location based. I feel like while Silicon Valley has its place with crypto, it's only one portion of it. Because if anything, they're trying to build certain things, fund certain things. But if you think about New York, they're the ones with their hands on the purse strings of how America handles their financial side of things. So they have their dog in the fight. And then you have places like, let's say, Florida and Miami that has just a lot of influential people. I don't know how much merit there is with some of the key opinion leaders there, but they are influential. And then when you come into LA, it's a hodgepodge of all kinds of different things because you have different VCs here now, different builders here now. But there's no one clear value proposition coming out of LA yet. So, and this is just North America, right? We're not even talking about Europe or China or Asia.
Dubai.
Oh gosh, Dubai, and look how much money they have.
Right.
I mean, SoftBank and a lot of the Saudi funds.
Yeah.
VCs receiving those, so
Exactly.
it's very interesting. Geo-wise, how who's doing what and where, and what they're more focused on, right?
Yeah.
And in China, you're only allowed to do so much too, though.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And who knows when the policy going to change again? So is Hong Kong.
So that's my next question with Future Forward. How do you see international business evolving with all this new tech? Do you think it's going to help cross-border relations? I mean, I hope it does. What are your thoughts?
I Well, I can only speaking from the blockchain and
Yeah, yeah.
probably the AI side of that. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was talking about so he was a supplier that bring a lot of the merchandise to from Asia, from Southeast Asia,
Okay.
to Walmart, and then so he was talking about how slow now with a lot of the big, franchise now in America in terms of, like Shein, those
Yeah.
quick fashion brands. They adapt really quickly. Have like maybe 20 or even more than that seasons of every year, whereas Zara probably have 4 or 5
Yeah.
about that. So he was talking about how AI can fundamentally change the whole thing about linking the supplier side and the market side. So you can doing maybe a new SaaS model utilizing the AI big AI model, and then have it very so can be streamlined so
Yeah.
much. So I think that is something I'm really interested in, learning more, how I can see that AI can fundamentally solve a lot of things in terms of the international business and trading and a lot of things. Yeah.
That's cool. You said something a little bit earlier how you always feel sometimes like maybe you're behind or whatnot, but you're curious. You seem to always want to learn, and I think as long as you're curious, you're never really behind because you're always learning. You're open to learning, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think that's one very important thing if you are in this crypto area or you want to join this area is that you have to a quick learner. You have to pick up something very quick, but at the same time, you have the how do you want to allocate your time and
true.
energy. Yeah,
Your bandwidth
your balance is
shrinks
just
real.
exactly.
Yeah.
You have to choose what you are really interested in, what you really believe in, and then allocate your time, your energy, your everything into it. And I think that's very important. But at the same time, keep you open to because there's just so much going on, so much happening in the space that every time you get tons of information, tons of new projects, new coming in. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's very yeah, it took me a while to get used to it, but yeah, but I'm okay now. I'm
You
I'm
seem
so good.
thriving, like you're thriving in it now. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.